Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. I couldn't sleep. Again. It was a nightly ritual now. Me lying flat on my back, eyes locked onto the dim streaks of streetlight filtering through the blinds. My mind an unruly storm of suspicions. My wife, Amy, lay beside me, her breath soft, steady, her body sprawled in a careless tangle of limbs. 25 years of marriage, and for the first time, I felt like I didn't know the woman sleeping next to me. Something was wrong. She had changed, and not in the usual ways that time shifts a person. No, this was different. It was a transformation, as if she had shed her skin overnight and emerged someone entirely new. It started in bed. Amy had always been reserved, predictable even. The kind of woman who followed routine, who never strayed beyond the boundaries of comfort. But then, suddenly, she was someone else. A stranger. The way she touched me, the way she moved, the way she whispered things in the dark. It wasn't the woman I knew. It was someone else entirely. Someone with new tricks. Someone with experience she hadn't learned with me. A friend had once told me over drinks, "Man, if your wife suddenly turns into a porn star in bed after 20 years of missionary, she's either found Jesus or another man." The words echoed in my head as I watched her sleep. I should have ignored it. Should have chalked it up to a phase. But then came the other signs. New perfume, a change in wardrobe, constant texting, the way she suddenly guarded her phone like it held the nuclear codes. And worst of all, she had changed her passcode. Amy had never locked her phone before. She had never hidden things from me. I swallowed hard. My chest tightened with the weight of my suspicions. I needed proof, and I was going to get it. The next morning, I barely spoke to Amy. She was in the kitchen, dressed in a tight-fitting blouse I didn't recognize, humming as she poured herself a cup of coffee. "Morning," she said without looking up. I grunted in response. She barely noticed, just kept sipping her coffee, scrolling through her phone with that sly little smile she thought I wouldn't notice. I clenched my jaw. I needed answers. By noon, I had made up my mind. I hired a private investigator, a man named Jack Holloway, an old-school detective with graying hair and the kind of weary eyes that had seen too much. "You think your wife's cheating?" he asked, scribbling in a notepad. "I don't think, Jack," I said grimly. "I know." Jack gave me a slow nod. "All right, let's find out." I left the meeting with a pit in my stomach. Deep down, I already knew the truth. I just wasn't ready to see it. It took Jack 5 days to deliver the first batch of evidence. He slid a folder across the table. "Brace yourself," he said. I opened it with shaky hands. And there she was. Amy, my wife, the woman I had built a life with, in a hotel parking lot, with a man I didn't recognize. They were laughing, touching, and then I turned the page, a picture of them kissing. A raw, gut-wrenching pain tore through me. This wasn't just sex. This wasn't just a mistake. This was intentional. I clenched my fists, my entire body shaking with a mix of rage and devastation. Jack exhaled. "Chris, there's more." I swallowed, flipping through more photos. More men. More lies. This wasn't an affair. This was a lifestyle. Amy had been living a double life. And now, she was about to face the consequences. That night, I waited. Amy came home late. Too late. I was sitting at the dining table, the photos spread out in front of me. Her face paled the second she saw them. What is this?" she whispered. I tapped the stack of betrayal in front of me. "You tell me." Her lips parted, then closed. She had no excuse. I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. "Tell me, Amy, how long?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Chris, how long?" I roared, slamming my fist on the table. She flinched. Then silence. I exhaled sharply, staring at her like she was a stranger. "You destroyed us," I said quietly. "You destroyed our family." And then I walked away. I filed for divorce the next day. But I wasn't done yet. Amy thought she had won, that she had pulled the ultimate betrayal and gotten away with it. But she was wrong. I wasn't going to just let her go. I was going to take everything. And then I was going to ruin her. The days after I handed Amy the divorce papers were eerily silent. She didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She just stared at the papers like she couldn't comprehend what was happening. "You're overreacting," she whispered one evening, sitting across from me at the dining table. Chris, you're being ridiculous. I nearly laughed. Ridiculous? I leaned forward, my voice ice cold. Ridiculous? Amy, I have photos of you with 3 different men. I have text logs of your conversations. I know about the Pure app. I know you've been living a whole other life behind my back while coming home and playing the role of my wife. Do not. I clenched my fists, my voice trembling with rage. Do not call me ridiculous. Her lips pressed together. I was unhappy, she muttered, folding her arms. You never paid attention to me. I scoffed. You want attention? You got it. But not the kind you were expecting. Amy's eyes darkened. She knew I was up to something. She just didn't know what. And that's what scared her. But I wasn't going to lay all my cards on the table just yet. No, I was going to let her stew in the silence. Let her wonder what kind of revenge was coming for her. Amy didn't realize that by cheating on me, she had given me all the leverage in the divorce. We lived in a state where adultery affected alimony and asset division. And thanks to the private investigator's evidence, I had proof beyond a doubt that she was the guilty party. But I didn't just want a clean break. I wanted her to suffer. So I played along. For a week, I acted calm, patient, almost forgiving. And Amy, naive, arrogant Amy, fell for it. She thought I was softening, thought she could manipulate me into a better deal. One evening, she sat next to me on the couch, all sugary sweet. Chris, she murmured, placing a hand on my knee. Maybe we don't have to fight about the money. Maybe we can come to a compromise. I looked at her, feigning hesitation. Compromise? I repeated. She smiled. Yes. You don't really want to drag this through the courts, do you? She shifted closer. We can work something out privately. Just you and me. I almost burst out laughing. The sheer audacity. This woman had spent the past 6 months humiliating me, sleeping with strangers, living a double life. And now she wanted me to sit down and make a friendly deal? Oh, Amy, you have no idea what's coming. While Amy believed she was coaxing me into a fair settlement, I was laying a financial trap she wouldn't see coming. I met with my lawyer, Natalie, and laid out exactly how we were going to destroy Amy's future. First, we're going to freeze all joint accounts, I told her. Make sure she doesn't drain them. Natalie nodded. Good. What else? I want the house, I said. She could take the car, the furniture, whatever. But the house stays with me. Natalie smirked. And since she's the guilty party in the divorce, she won't have a legal leg to stand on. Exactly. Amy thought she was playing me. But in reality, she had walked into my trap willingly. Then came the real fun. See, Amy wasn't just sleeping with single men. One of her lovers? Derek? Yeah, he was married. And I made it my personal mission to find his wife. After some digging, I found her, Rachel, a sweet, unsuspecting woman who had no idea her husband had been screwing my wife in seedy motels. So I arranged a meeting. We met at a small cafe downtown. Rachel sat across from me, her expression polite but confused. I don't really understand, she said softly. Why did you ask to meet me? I slid a folder across the table. Because I thought you deserved to know what your husband has been doing. Rachel hesitated. Then, with trembling fingers, she opened the folder, and her entire world shattered. She flipped through the photos, Derek and Amy in a hotel parking lot, in a bar, holding hands, kissing. I watched as her face drained of color. No, she whispered. No, he wouldn't. He did. I took a sip of my coffee, and I'm divorcing my wife because of it. Tears welled in her eyes. She clutched the folder like it was the last thing holding her together. I need to go, she stammered, standing abruptly. I need to. Rachel, I said, my voice calm but firm. I have a proposition for you. She froze. I leaned forward, my expression dark. How would you like to destroy them? Rachel was hesitant at first, but the more I laid out the perfect revenge, the more she hardened. By the time I was done, she was no longer crying. She was ready for war. Together, we devised a brutal, meticulous plan that would ruin both Amy and Derek's lives. It started with leaking the evidence. We sent anonymous envelopes containing the photos and text logs to Derek's job, Amy's family, and their entire social circle. Within days, Amy's reputation was in ruins. She went from being a respected woman to a pariah. And Derek? His wife took everything. She filed for divorce, kicked him out, and exposed him to his boss, who just happened to have a strict no-infidelity policy. By the end of the week, Derek lost his wife, his job, and his reputation. And Amy? She had no one left. But I wasn't done yet. The night Amy realized she had lost everything, she showed up at my door. She was crying, her makeup smeared, her eyes wild with desperation. "Chris," she whimpered. "Please. I made a mistake." I folded my arms, staring down at her like she was nothing. "A mistake," I repeated, my voice cold. "Amy, a mistake is forgetting to lock the front door. A mistake is buying the wrong brand of milk. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Over and over again." She sobbed harder. I just want to fix this." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Fix this." I stepped closer, towering over her. "Amy, you destroyed our marriage. You humiliated me. You turned into a liar, a cheater, and now you want forgiveness." She sniffled, nodding. I leaned in, lowering my voice to a whisper. "Amy, I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember the feeling of standing here, begging me for another chance." I stepped back, my eyes burning into hers. "Because this is the last time you'll ever have my attention." And then I slammed the door in her face. The night I slammed the door in Amy's face, I didn't feel relief. Not yet. I stood there, my breathing ragged, my hands clenched in a fist as I listened to her muffled sobs from the other side. I had thought that seeing her broken, desperate, begging for another chance would bring me some satisfaction. But all I felt was cold, empty silence. Maybe it was because I knew this wasn't the end of her suffering. No, it was only the beginning. She wasn't done paying, and I wasn't done making her pay. I turned away from the door, stepping back into the dimly lit living room. The house felt so much bigger now, so much emptier. It was the same home I had lived in for over 2 decades, the same walls that had once held laughter, love, and a family. And now, it was nothing more than a graveyard of memories. I poured myself a drink, letting the bitterness of whiskey settle on my tongue. My mind was still a storm of thoughts, rage, and exhaustion, but one thing was clear. Amy wasn't suffering enough. She had torn my life apart. I was going to burn hers to the ground. Amy had always cared about appearances. She loved the admiration of others, the approval of friends, the image of being a strong, independent woman who had everything under control. But what would happen when the world saw her for what she truly was? I pulled out my phone and dialed Rachel's number, the wife of one of Amy's lovers, Derek. She picked up after 2 rings, her voice sharp and wary. "Chris, it's time," I said simply. She didn't hesitate. "Let's do it." That same night, the first leaks hit the internet. The private investigators' photos. The screenshots of Amy's messages with her lovers. The timestamps. The meetings, the nights she had claimed to be at work events, but was actually sneaking off to cheap motels. And by morning, Amy's entire social circle knew. The whispers started first, then the texts, then the phone calls. By noon, she had been kicked from her women's social group, a group she had cultivated for years, because none of them wanted to be associated with a home-wrecking, cheating, manipulative liar. Her closest friends turned their backs on her. Her family members refused to speak to her. And the best part, her workplace found out. One of the photos showed her leaving a hotel with a known businessman who had ties to the company she worked for. Within 48 hours, Amy was called into HR. And by the end of the week, she was fired. Gone. No job. No friends. No reputation. No respect. She had nothing left but shame. I wasn't done yet. There was still unfinished business. Julie and Kate had unknowingly played a role in their mother's betrayal. They had thought they were helping, thought that suggesting an open marriage was a good idea, but they had helped destroy our family. And now they wanted to fix things. I wasn't sure if I was ready to forgive them, but I was ready to face them. So when my phone buzzed with another missed call from Julie, I finally picked up. "Dad." Her voice was cautious, hesitant. "Please, can we meet? Just us." "No, Mom." I exhaled. "Fine. Where?" She rattled off the name of a cafe. 20 minutes later, I walked in to find both of them sitting at a corner table, looking miserable. Kate's eyes were red-rimmed. Julie looked exhausted. They both looked guilty as hell. I slid into the seat across from them. "Talk." Julie swallowed hard. "We're sorry, Dad." Kate sniffled. "We never wanted this." I folded my arms. "But you encouraged it." They flinched. I leaned forward, my voice low and cold. "Tell me something. When you told your mother about open relationships, did it ever cross your mind to talk to me first? To ask if I would even want something like that?" Julie shook her head, guilt washing over her. Mom made it sound like like you didn't care anymore. Like she was alone. I clenched my jaw. And you believed her. Kate wiped her eyes. Dad, we were stupid. We thought we were helping. We thought that if you both talked about it, it would bring you closer. I let out a bitter laugh. Closer? Is that what this is? Does this feel like a happy ending to you? Julie flinched. No. And we hate ourselves for it. I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. They were still my daughters. I knew they hadn't meant for this to happen. But it didn't erase the fact that they had helped push their mother toward infidelity. And that was something I wasn't sure I could ever forget. Look, I said after a long pause. I'm not ready to forgive you yet. Kate whimpered. But, I interrupted. I'm not cutting you out of my life either. Julie let out a shaky breath. So what do we do? I exhaled. You let me heal. You give me time. And you make damn sure that you never interfere in my relationships again. They nodded, wiping away their tears. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than anger. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. The next time I saw Amy, she was broken. Her once polished hair was tangled. Her expensive clothes were replaced by cheap thrift store outfits. She had lost everything. And the best part? She finally knew it was all her fault. She showed up at my house, standing outside the door like a lost ghost. When I opened it, she didn't even try to speak. She just looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Please, she whispered. I stared at her. Please what? She swallowed. I don't know. Her voice cracked. I just want my life back. I tilted my head. You want the life you destroyed? She shuddered. I let the silence stretch between us. Let her feel the weight of her own actions. Then, finally, I whispered the only thing that mattered. It's too late. Her face crumpled. And then, without another word, I shut the door in her face. For the last time. Amy didn't leave right away. She stood outside the door for 10 minutes. I watched her through the peephole, her shoulders shaking, her arms wrapped around herself. She was crying, but I felt nothing. Not sympathy, not anger, not even satisfaction, just emptiness. She had made her choice, and now she was living in the wreckage of it. I walked away from the door, ignoring her presence entirely. Eventually, her quiet sobs faded, and I heard her footsteps retreat down the porch. When I finally glanced outside, she was gone. For good. Amy might have been gone, but her suffering wasn't over. Not yet. She had one last thing left to lose, her financial security. For the past few weeks, she had been staying afloat on savings, thinking she could get back on her feet quickly. But she had underestimated how much I had stacked the deck against her. She had no job. HR had seen to that. She had no allies. Her friends had abandoned her. And her reputation was completely destroyed. I made sure to follow up on the divorce settlement, ensuring she got nothing more than what the courts forced me to give her. She had no house, no income, no way to maintain the life she had once flaunted. The woman who had thought she was untouchable was now completely powerless. She tried reaching out to some of her old lovers, but surprise, none of them wanted her anymore. Derek ghosted her. Luke blocked her number. That idiot Nacho man didn't even remember her name. She wasn't a fantasy anymore. She was a disgraced, discarded woman. And the final blow? I found out through a mutual acquaintance that Amy had to move into a rundown apartment on the outskirts of town. From luxury living to a shabby, one-bedroom place with peeling wallpaper and broken blinds. The irony? The same cheap motels she had snuck off to cheat on me, she was now living in one. I had kept my distance from Julie and Kate, not because I didn't love them, but because I wasn't ready to forgive them. But one night, Kate showed up at my house. Alone. Her face was pale, uncertain, as she stood on the porch, holding a small envelope. I hesitated, then stepped outside. What are you doing here? She swallowed. Dad, I need to talk to you. I crossed my arms. Go ahead. Kate let out a shaky breath. I want to see Mom. I stiffened. And she looked down. She's not okay. I scoffed. That's not my problem. Kate's eyes shone with guilt. I know she did this to herself. But seeing her like that, I don't know. It made me realize how badly we all messed up. I stayed silent, watching her carefully. She handed me the envelope. It's a letter. From me. From Julie, too. We wrote everything. We didn't want to say it wrong. I hesitated, but eventually I took it. Kate bit her lip, her voice barely above a whisper. "We miss you, Dad." Then, before I could respond, she turned and walked away. I stood there for a long time before I finally opened the letter. And as I read every handwritten word of regret, guilt, and love, my anger began to crack. Weeks passed. I moved forward. I went back to work. I reconnected with old friends. I started rebuilding the life Amy had tried to shatter. And then, one afternoon, I received a final text from an unknown number. "Amy, I know you'll never forgive me, but I just needed to say I'm sorry. I destroyed everything, and I deserve what happened. I hope one day you can be happy again." I stared at the message for a long time. I could have responded. I could have torn her apart with words one last time. But instead, I did the only thing that truly mattered. I deleted the message. And then, with a deep breath, I moved on. For the first time in years, I felt free. Amy was gone. The betrayal, the pain, the weight of everything she had done, it no longer controlled me. And my daughters? They were back in my life. It wasn't perfect, but it was healing, one slow step at a time. And as I stood on my back porch, watching the sun set over the horizon, I let out a long, deep breath. Because for the first time in a long, long time, I felt at peace. Amy had lost, and I had won.